I'm scared to watch my niece again after the stunt she pulled. This happened a couple of weeks ago, but I'm posting here due to pressure being put on me by her mother. I'll start with a little background. So my brother Jeff, 28 male, was and is reckless throughout high school. He dated many girls, sometimes more than one at once, and was always cutting class to smoke or meet a girl. I was already off to college, but my parents were always on his case, and it seemed like whenever I was home, he was being punished for something or another. Well, eventually he went to college himself, and everything caught up with him. He grew up in a small town, and people let him get away with a lot. He ended up getting punted out of school for a series of pranks and incidences. Instead of learning his lesson, he just came home and started partying and sleeping around. Cut to a few years later, and he gets Janice pregnant. None of us were surprised. He was always careless. What did surprise us, that Janice kept the kid. We call her Natalie. Jeff freaked out the whole pregnancy and ended up ignoring the fact that it even happened. Except for child support, he has done nothing to do with his child despite us pleading with him to be in her life. It's not that he's a bad guy. He just avoids anything serious in life. Anyway, cut to now. And Natalie is an absolutely awesome young lady. She would be the best thing to happen to my brother if he would acknowledge her. Janice's parents disowned her for a bit for ruining her life by having Natalie. So me and my parents have always helped out. I do this for Natalie because I actually am not fond of Janice. She confided to me once that she only had Natalie thinking Jeff would step up and she could be a stay-at-home mom. She has a history of bringing random guys home around my niece. Also, I don't think it's ever been physical. I think she is abusing Natalie. Her punishments are often extreme. She once took everything out of Natalie's room except her bed because she drew on the wall with crayon. I live only a couple towns over, more than an hour's drive, so I'm happy to take Natalie for a weekend or so over the last summer. She stayed with me for a month. I think Janice looks forward to these as times to spend partying and going out with men. Natalie is funny and sometimes very profound, and we have a blast exploring the city together. She's also very smart sometimes in devious ways, which will be important for later. The incident happened a couple of weeks ago while she was staying the weekend with me. It was Friday afternoon evening, and we are at the grocery store. If I'm watching her, we get up early on Saturdays and watch cartoons and eat cereals, so we always pick a box of cereal to eat. I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone when Natalie comes up with the family-sized Frosted Flakes. She's been beaming it like she just won a contest. I tell her it was a nice try, but put it back and get a regular size, and she starts to throw a tantrum. I regret this, but between her and my girlfriend, I was getting a bit stressed, so I snapped at her to put it back. I regretted it instantly. She looked stunned for a second. This is the first time I've ever snapped at her, and this alone makes me feel horrible. Then hung her head and went to put it back. I decided to finish the phone call and just let her get the big box. She just standing there in the aisle with her head hanging. My heartstrings were being yanked at this point. I go up to grab the box she had, but when my hand touches her shoulder, she clowns away and yells, "Get away from me!" loud enough that a few people turned their heads. I was a bit shocked myself and moved towards her again, and she really started on it. She kept yelling for me to get away, asking who I was, and yelling for help. Now I was getting a bit terrified, so I began begging her to please stop, that she's going to get in serious trouble. Even though I was really more scared of what was going to happen to me, finally a manager approaches and starts talking to her. She tells him that she doesn't know me and can't find her mom. Oh no, my heart is breaking a bit right now, and I'm panicking a bit, especially when the manager asked over the radio for the police to be called. I guess he saw that I wasn't running, so he asked me to step into his office with him and that they would watch Natalie. What followed was the scariest 3 hours of my life. First, the police came and asked me a bunch of questions. They had Natalie in another room. After a while, they believed me but couldn't release her to anyone but her legal guardian. They called Janice and requested that she come pick up her daughter. So Janice had to leave work early, drive about an hour and a half to come get Natalie. To say she was pissed at her daughter would be an understatement. A piece of me regrets letting Janice leave with her when she was so mad, but there wasn't much I could do. Everyone was full apologies to me, the manager, the police, and especially Janice. Natalie just shut down and wouldn't look at me. I was numb at that point, and at the time, it was like a bad dream. I went home and laid in bed until some point, and I just went to sleep. Now it's been about 2 weeks, and Janice has been calling or texting me almost every day saying I can come by when I can. She tells me that Natalie wants to apologize and feels really bad that she hurt her uncle like that. And I know I should, but the idea of being around her right now makes my anxiety spike. Janice has also been pushing me taking her for a few weekends during the holidays. That used to bring me joy, but now I'm just scared. I keep thinking, what if someone less reasonable than the manager came along and thought I was kidnapping Natalie? I could be in the hospital. But then I go back to her being a kid. She didn't think about the consequences. She probably is really sorry. Then I feel guilty and I can't get over it. What do I do, Reddit? How do I get back to a normal relationship with my niece after this? We got an edit. Okay, wow. I don't know what to think anymore. First off, I don't have a problem saying no to the girl. I've said it a ton. It was about the way I said it. I've never been that abrupt with her. Some people are also bringing up possibilities I hadn't considered. I always hear on the news or see articles on Facebook about a man falsely accused of spicy-related misconduct. Natalie has always had a prankster mindset, but it's never been anything close to this, and never once has she hurt me. I think it's best if I don't see her alone for a bit. I can visit her at my parents', and I've also been toying with the idea of introducing her and my girlfriend. We've been going out about 6 months now, and she's the coolest. So maybe the three of us could hang out. It's really upsetting because I'm going to miss chilling with her like we used to. I feel like I got to be a kid all over again. The other problem is that Janice is going to be all over me to take care of her. Thanks for the replies, guys. I've read them, all of them. Even if I haven't responded, I'll edit and update if anything new happens. We got some comments. Oh, wow. I was so angry reading this. I can't imagine how upset you must be. I sincerely hope her mom handled her when they got home. That's really effed up and scary manipulative for a child at that age. Honestly, this is just one of those crappy kid things they do. They like to push boundaries and don't understand their actions can have serious consequences. The kid doesn't have the emotional maturity to understand how badly this could have implicated you. I'd be terrified of this happening again, because what if she says something weirder when you're alone with her? I'm genuinely afraid for men in these situations because of that whole absurd social stigma that arises when a man is seen taking care of a little girl. If this happened to my significant other, I wouldn't really want him around the kids alone much. Can you discuss these concerns with the mom and what she thinks? We got an update. It's been a very emotional week for me, and I wouldn't say things have blown over, but I wanted to update everyone on what has happened. First, thank you all. Everyone's advice has been helpful, blah, 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 blah. Now, before I get into what happened with Natalie, I need to go over a couple of things. One is that I won't be avoiding Natalie no matter what happens. Even if we don't ever hang out one-on-one, I would never conceive of not seeing her again. Maybe that makes me an idiot. Fine, I'm an idiot. Second thing is the weird relationship with me and Janice have. For Natalie's first year, Janice was a really great mom. She lived with my parents, and they supported her and Natalie. Janice didn't even work. I started coming over more and more frequently after a few months of offering to watch my niece, so my parents and Janice could have a break. Even over the next couple of years, as Janice got a job and moved into her apartment, I was still in town and made myself available to babysit. Well, I mentioned how Janice and Natalie thinking my brother would still take care of them. Well, I think she started transferring those feelings to me. At the time, I was a nerdy kid, and Janice was an attractive girl. I wasn't used to attention from attractive girls. We never actually went on a date or had spicy sleep, but there were nights where we hooked up. But she always wanted more, and for me, the nights we hooked up were the moments of weakness. She had a kid with my brother, after all. Anyways, fast forward to now. Janice acts as if she got me wrapped around her finger, and that's the one who got away. I've never robbed her of this perspective because it makes it easier to see Natalie. She doesn't know about my girlfriend. This will be more important. Oh my gosh. This dude just doesn't know how to actually have conversations with people. And this is why he's getting into this. Oh my god.
That's what I'm saying. This is what I've been saying.
So he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be with I want to see my niece Natalie, and I'm not going to get rid of this mommy and daddy complex here because I'll get to see Natalie." Dude.
Yeah, you got to learn how to talk right, dude. These are talking right situations.
And he's been dating this girl for 6 months.
You
and
have
told
to
Janice?
level up your speech. Come on, man.
Charisma increase. I called my dad after I posted. I'm scared to watch my niece again after the stunt she pulled. I called my dad after I posted on Sunday, and we had a long talk about what happened. My dad is good to go to advice because he can see things from multiple angles. He said a lot of the same things I heard from Reddit. When I brought up therapy or counseling because of possible abuse, he mentioned some disturbing things. He said that Natalie had some other problems with guys that Janice would bring home. No, my hair was standing up on my neck when he said that. But it's not as bad as it could be, I guess. At least that's what she's willing to share. Just some things like being able to hear weird noises from her mom's room when guys come over, or one of them getting wasted and yelling at her or Janice. That got me pretty mad, especially because Janice has already had a harmful relationship that we all helped her get away from. So the fact that she was bringing guys back who were yelling at them is worrisome. Anyways, I made plans with my dad to see Natalie on Wednesday at my parents'. Janice had already called once while I was talking to my dad, so I rang her back. This was one I got nervous because I knew she was going to try and guilt trip me into watching my niece, but I managed to hold my ground. I explained to her that I didn't feel comfortable seeing Natalie alone for a bit. I would still see her at my parents' or at a place if our schedules aligned, but I couldn't see her alone at least until the new year, and we would revisit it. Janice didn't take this well. She kept telling me she had made plans the weekend after Thanksgiving and that I was putting her in a real bind. I tried explaining that if she put herself in a bind, if she made plans without confirming, I could help. She didn't like that. The real drama, though, happened when I floated the idea that my girlfriend could come down sometime and meet Natalie. Janice got real upset and then started accusing me of ignoring Natalie and her so I could be with my girlfriend. I really didn't care about the grocery store incident. I just wanted an out. I argued as best as I could, but she hung up after a few minutes. Not sure what's going to happen with that. And we come to Wednesday. I was so nervous all day. I didn't get much work done. I just stared at the clock and tried to ignore what I had to do. The whole ride down, my palms were sweating. I didn't know what to expect. When I walked through the door, my parents greeted me and told me they'd go get Natalie. She had been in her room since she got out of school. I sat on the couch and tried to plan what I was going to say. She came down and had her head hanging down, and I went up and hugged her, and we both started crying. I said I missed her, and she was really starting blubbering and kept saying she was sorry over and over. I just kept hugging her until she calmed down a bit. I raised her head and looked in her eyes and told her I knew she was sorry, but that things had changed now, and she couldn't come over to my place for a bit. She started crying again, saying she was sorry over and over, and kept asking me not to leave her like Tim. That got my attention. Tim was a divorced guy that Janice saw for a few months, and was probably the best guy she's seen. Yet, he had his own boy, who was a couple of years younger than Natalie, so he knew what raising a kid was like. Well, Natalie loved him. Actually, we all loved him. He was funny, easy to get along with, had a decent job. We were all hoping that Tim would be around permanently, but unfortunately, Janice and him had a falling out and broke up. Well, after asking Natalie why she was saying that, she told me that her mom had not only told her that Tim was leaving, but it was her fault, and that if she did anything like that, what she did in the supermarket again, then I would leave forever too. Me and my parents were pretty mad after hearing that. I reassured her that I would never leave her and that she stuck with me. I did tell her that what she did to hurt me was dangerous, and we couldn't spend much time together like we used to for a while. I used a line that, like it mistress, posted in the last thread. I love you, but I don't love what you did. She told me she was sorry over and over, and I accepted her apology. I hung around until her bedtime. We watched Adventure Time. I helped her with her homework and put her to bed. We were both in a much better mood by then. I'm now in another weird spot. On one hand, I want to chew Janice out big time for pulling all that crap on my niece's shoulders. On the other, I'm actually afraid that if I poke the bear too much, Janice may withhold her daughter from me indefinitely. I think Janice feels like she lost control of the situation and maybe do something drastic to get it back. I do risk being cut out of my niece's life by putting her mom in her place. Is there anyone we can call? Thanks in advance. We got a comment. I do remember reading your first post a while ago and not really knowing what to say, but I actually have some advice here. I spent the majority of my younger years being taken care of by my grandmother and aunt and uncle. My parents had issues, and I was catered off to them during the weekdays. They were good parents, just made mistakes. I want to say that if she'd been taking care of you as much as she is, she considers you a father too. I used to tell people I had 3 moms, my grandmother, my aunt, and my mom, and called my cousins my brother and sister. Lines of uncle, aunt, grandmother, mom, dad are blurred when kids are taken care of in the extended families. In my mom's home country, it's really common to foster your kids out of extended family because you can't afford to take care of them. So I have a lot of relatives who have seen these lines blurred together. And Natalie seems to have an abandonment issues. It seems to me that Janice expects you to take care of her or your brother, and and blames Natalie because no one wants a woman with a child or whatever she believes herself and her dating situation. Sleeping with her was a big old mistake, but what you need to focus on is that Natalie gets help. Whatever Janice has taught Natalie about parental love has definitely been warping her ideas about you, and it's making her act out in front of you. Getting her counseling, get her to talk to someone, maybe your mom, and get the full story. Ask her about exactly what happened with Tim. This might sound drastic, but would you or your parents ever consider taking over custody? Opie says it's come up before. Not a serious option, but it's just a case scenario. It would be my parents likely. They were well off and retired early and could be true full-time caretakers. They're in their late 60s though, so I would have to help out, I'm sure. I get the same feeling about Janice. It seems like she hops from one guy to the next, hoping of one of them will start taking care of her and Natalie. I do want to stress real quick that me and Janice did not have intercourse, although we fooled around and got close once or twice. Counseling seems to be conscientious now, but I'm in the last thread, so I will start looking up resources. We got a reply. If you can find a way to have your parents become the legal guardians, please do so. Otherwise, the good that you can do for your Natalie will always be limited by having to tiptoe around Janice. And Janice will keep damaging her and letting others damage her. That's it. Wow, that's the story, guys.